Welcome into this edition of the Oxford Exxon podcast. I am Chase Parham, and we're going to get you over to our recording from Blue Delta's studio on the Oxford Square. We did that yesterday. We did the podcast Sunday morning. Neil and myself, we talked, and then we had a visit from Andy Kennedy. We had mimosas with AK Sunday morning prior to the big Blue Delta bash at the Lyric, where they were celebrating their 5th anniversary of being on the Oxford Square. So we'll get that to you in 1 second. Before we do that, I'll tell you about the Oxford Exxon Highway 6 West in Oxford. You know about the lunch specials, you know about the ribs, you know about all those different things. But over the course of the weekend, Ole Miss announced the Super Henry Endowment. That is an endowment to help a fund for sports nutrition to help that out on the Ole Miss campus. It is named after Henry Ulrich. You know him, the little boy who I wrote about last year dealing with muscular dystrophy in a very, very positive way. Ole Miss super fan. You can read more about that at the site. But in his honor, he was in town over the weekend. They are starting the endowment fund for sports nutrition. Critical, the Oxford Exxon, big parts of that. So if you would, you can find out more or donate at ignite.olemiss.edu. And then every single day we come to you from the Clark Ford Studio, 662-257-1900 there in Amory, Mississippi, Highway 25 South. You know that you give Corey a call, and within 15 minutes, you get a quote, you can shop it around, take it, and what we'd like for you to do is, even if you're not interested in Ford, just in a car in general, still call him. Maybe it'll spring something into motion, maybe it'll be something for down the line, but either way, give Corey a shot there at Clark Ford, and if you decide to get a deal in place, just mention the podcast, $500 off your deal from Clark Ford. Now let's get on over to yesterday's broadcast with me, Neal McCready, and then later Andy Kennedy from Blue Delta in Oxford.
From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something that you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Welcome into this edition of the Oxford Exxon podcast. You are hearing this on Monday morning. However, it is 8:38 on Sunday morning. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, not the Clark Ford studio. We are in the Blue Delta studio this morning, getting ready for the 5-year anniversary of them being on the square in Oxford. Here at the Lyric in a little while. Already got drinks in hand at 8:38, so ready to go. We'll talk some draft. We'll talk some baseball today. Also, former Ole Miss head basketball coach Andy Kennedy, a Blue Delta supporter as well, stopping in to join us here in a little bit. So you'll hear from him. Big weekend here at in Oxford. Double-decker weekend going on. Ole Miss baseball sweeps Texas A&amp. And 6 players in the NFL draft from the Rebels. It got off to a slow start. Nobody going on Thursday night. However, picked back up. Ole Miss ends up tied for 3rd in the SEC with the most draft picks. I really enjoyed the fact that Tennessee, the one program that did not have a player drafted yesterday, Mr. McCurdy.
Nobody from Tennessee got drafted?
13 of 14 SEC schools had one. Missouri and Vanderbilt had 2 each. The Vols had a big goose egg over the weekend.
Wow, I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No, there may have been a lot of tequila in my weekend.
Tequila?
Yeah.
You're trying to be trendy here. You've done this thing. Jonathan Howard told you that mezcal and tequila was going to be the next big thing, and you're not just jumping in. You're jumping in with both feet.
I got to tell you, he's right about
By the way, this is a disjointed podcast. Just have at it. Good luck.
He's right about the mezcal. We did margaritas where you did tequila and mezcal.
Well, that means you couldn't tell the difference between the tequila and the mezcal in the margarita.
You could taste a little bit of the smoky flavor. Because we didn't use much margarita.
So what's the difference? I'm not a tequila guy. I haven't gotten into. I probably had mezcal, but I don't know.
It's just
so
a little smokier.
Is it pure agave? Mechanically, what is the difference?
Now you're asking me questions that I'm not sure I can answer, but I can look.
Well, I don't know if that's necessary. I'm just curious.
I like a margarita, and yesterday I laid out by the pool. Carson actually got in the pool. I just decided that would be better than bourbon in that environment.
Well, it is starting to get warm. I mean, I'm one of the weird people that continue to drink bourbon year-round no matter what. I mean, most people do switch off to the daiquiris and the vodka and the tequila and the different things as the temperature climbs up into the 70s and 80s.
The difference is mezcal is a Mexican distilled spirit that is made from the agave plant. Tequila is technically a mezcal. However, there are differences in production technique and in the types of agave used.
Oh, so it's technically one of them.
It also tends to taste sweeter or richer than tequila.
Really?
Yeah.
So are there mezcals that we should be stocking up? They're going to be the Pappy in 15 years? Like, are we missing some investment opportunity here?
We probably are. It's probably something that we could get Jonathan on and we could ask about as we get into the summer months.
Although, do we really want to do that? Because that brings a lot more people claiming for those bottles that we were trying to make money off.
Well, we would have the information before our listeners would, so we would have to act on it before we hit the publish button.
Okay, good enough. Let's get into it a little bit here this morning. Again, I hope many of you are coming out. You'll obviously have seen you or not seen you for the Blue Delta party today at the Lyric. Been telling you for a while, so you should have RSVP'd. That would have been the polite thing to do in 2019. Not everyone does that, but that would be awesome if you have done that. I know a few of you that I'll probably be seeing later. I saw some people at baseball yesterday. Told me they were headed by. So thanks to the Blue Delta for having us in. We're sporting our snazzy new breeches today as well. Neil's is not necessarily part of the new line. Mine are.
Yours are.
I have seersucker on this morning. You have your lilac on, I believe is the appropriate determination.
I think the hashtag that has been created, not by me but by others, is that real men wear lilac, and I'll just claim that.
Neil is an Instagram model, so you can go find a picture of him on Instagram from last week when he decided to put a few photos up. He looks stiff as all hell, but he's got the lilac on in the photo.
Yeah. That's... When Jay Tate got a hold of that picture,
that was candy bar the door.
It was off to the races. Speaking of drinks, by the way, is there a drink more underrated than the mimosa?
No, it is. Back to the brunch conversation. It's back to why I like brunch. It's the most socially acceptable time to pour a mimosa. Because you're probably not. You're not going to walk into your greasy spoon and be like, "Hey, let me go grab 2 mimosas." Probably.
Right.
But at brunch, it's like, "Hey, Bloody Mary or mimosa?" And I don't drink Bloody Marys really, so I got to figure that out here in a couple hours. But I can probably sneak these in. I'll be all right. But I know
someone will hook us up. We know some people.
Yeah, but point being, no. I mean, the right proportion of a mimosa is one of the best things in the world. Like, I honestly could drink them. I don't, but I could drink them at night and be fine.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. Why? I guess because we're scared to order it. But it's like you like what you like.
Go into a bar and be like,
hey, you know what? Make fun of me all you want.
I want a mimosa.
I'd like a mimosa.
And I'd like it to be this much champagne and this much orange juice.
Yeah, and then put just a little Cointreau on the top or Grand Marnier on the top. Just a little, just a dash.
Does that kick it?
Just takes it just a little notch. Not a big deal. It's not a requirement.
Okay.
But just, it's nice.
If you haven't seen it, the best thing on social media over the weekend, DK Metcalf's phone call from the Seattle Seahawks on Friday when he finally went. Because, congratulations to all those guys, especially, frankly, to all of them. I kind of went through it and I went, every one of them really good dudes. We had good experiences with all 6 of those guys.
Yeah.
But DK, being there in that environment, having to sit through it on Thursday night, I can't imagine what that's like. Having to wait an extra day, not knowing. I mean, really, when he finally went, I mean, even I had a sense of relief. I'm like, thank God that's over.
Yeah. It was probably very similar. I read Gabe DeArmond's story about Drew Lock, the Missouri quarterback, who went through the same thing. He and DK both sat in that room on Thursday, and neither one of them heard their name called. And it's not what you went to Nashville expecting. And so it forces you to sort of take stock, and then you have to wait all day Friday for it to roll around. And Drew Lock had his name called, I think, 4 or 5 picks earlier than DK. But you know what? The thing with DK is I don't think people realize how serious that neck injury that he suffered in the Arkansas game was and could have been.
There was a moment where will this guy play football again?
Yeah. So a lot of that emotion came out. I mean, he's kind of turned into a meme, but we know him. He's not a meme. He's a human being from a family.
Got him a strawberry Nesquik endorsement.
Yeah.
He likes his strawberry milk. Nesquik jumped on DK.
That was smart.
Yeah.
It's all going to work out. And in many ways, and look, people talk about the money. There's 2 ways to make up the money now. You can endorse your way to making up the money, which is a hard path. or you can earn it and get that second contract. Because once you become an NFL player, they don't really give a damn where you were drafted. And for him, I think this is a great fit. Seattle runs a lot of vertical stuff. Russell Wilson throws as good of a deep ball as anyone in the NFL.
He's got Tyler Lockett on the other side.
He's going to get some man coverage. He's going to be a red zone threat for them. Seattle did not have some of the red zone threats that they wanted to have a year ago. He'll be that.
He got picked up by maybe the best deep ball quarterback in the league and a team that is going to emphasize blocking on the outside of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and he's kind of a Pete Carroll sort of player. And I don't know if you heard, but Seattle has great fans.
It's loud.
It's loud there. And I think it actually, I mean, all kind of jokes aside, I think it's a really good fit for him.
AJ's a good fit in Tennessee. I thought every one of those guys got picked by the right place.
Yeah.
That benefits them. And now, obviously, that's because the franchises are looking for the right kind of fit for them. But especially with AJ and DK, I thought, this makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, AJ's going to be with the quarterback that likes that intermediate game, that is good in the intermediate game. Makes a lot of sense. That's where AJ's strong, is in the middle of the field. He can play in the slot. I still think he can play on the outside. I heard, I guess Chris Landry say that the other day. Neil Stratton has said that. Some people who really know the game think he can play on the outside and be productive. And he makes a lot of sense there. And then after that, you start getting into the later rounds, and I think teams are trying to draft some depth. I think teams are looking for, guys that can make a roster on special teams. That's where I think Dawson Knox has a chance to really excel. I don't know if he gets enough credit for how athletic he is. He goes to Buffalo. He's going to get a chance to play as a tight end some, but they're going to use him H-back-ish kind of thing. And like I heard someone in Buffalo say, I was actually reading some of the commentary from a guy that just covers the Bills. They are looking for him to be an impact player across the boards and special teams, and I think Dawson's good at that.
Dawson and Greg. Greg goes to the Panthers. Actually,
we didn't touch on that.
The first guy off the board, and frankly, one of the more misunderstood players that has come through this program. He comes on the heels of Laramie Tunsil. Keeps getting compared to him, which is not fair to any human on earth.
Nope.
Anthony Munoz could come through, and it still wouldn't be fair.
Might be fair to him.
My point being,
Anyone
no matter what, it wouldn't be fair to Laramie to be compared to Anthony. But point
I was being silly, but I know what you meant.
So, Greg, though, and this is college media landscape. I'm not getting into that right now. That's not the point. But a guy who is just a good dude. We talked about it last week about how it comes off as this timidity that he almost kind of works against him. He's going to show up every day. He's going to be the guy that starts for 8-9 seasons in the NFL, gives you all the productivity in the world, wherever he plays in the line of scrimmage. I really don't care. They got a great guy that fell simply because he wasn't a robot, because of Phil Longo's offense, and frankly, because he kind of got hurt in bench press and only lifted the 225 14, 15 times because everybody's so beholden to those numbers in different ways. So I was really happy for Greg there. I saw where he was thanking tons of people at Ole Miss. Just a real appreciative guy. And then Dawson Knox came in as a walk-on quarterback from Brentwood at Tennessee. Was a walk-on quarterback. He earns his way through the scholarship, obviously. One of the first beneficiaries of the Park-Stevens endowment for walk-ons after Park passed away. We had a very small part of that with a golf tournament a few years ago. He was one of the beneficiaries of that early on as well, and now NFL draft pick at tight end and someone who was completely misused throughout his career. But nonetheless, he's got a chance to impact in a variety of different ways. I just, when he got done, we always talk about DK and AJ, but Greg and Dawson at the end of that day at least, I thought this is pretty cool. This is a pretty cool thing for those guys. And then later on, Ken Webster, all the injuries, all the stuff. I mean, probably a first, second round pick were he not to have that play in Orlando that night against Florida State. But fights his way back. It took forever. He had a pretty productive final year, and he's going to get a chance. I don't know how it's going to go, but a lot of times everybody goes, well, you want to be an undrafted free agent instead of a seventh round pick. I thought just from a symbolism standpoint, just from a credit standpoint, it was cool to hear his name called yesterday.
Yeah, I agree completely. There's a lot there. I agree completely with what you said about Ken. Ken was on his way to being a first-round pick. And that was a catastrophic knee injury that, frankly, most people don't come back from just because the human body's not that resilient. And it's a credit to the people that put his knee back together. And then mostly it's a credit to him. Because I remember talking to him in the spring after that injury. And there was still a lot of doubt about whether he would ever come back and, he knew he'd come back and give it a shot. Was there any chance you'd come back and ever regain the explosiveness and the athleticism that you had before that? And I think that answer is still being determined, but he's a lot closer to it than he was. And was it the Colts? No, New England. New England takes a flyer on him in the 7th round, and I don't know if you've noticed, but they're pretty good at getting a lot out of their drafts. They're not throwing a pick away. Here's my point: the Patriots aren't drafting him for symbolism.
They think he can play.
They think, hey, this guy maybe could continue to get his athleticism back to the point that he can play corner. They're thinking, hey, maybe this is a guy who could. We know he can play safety. He could be a nickelback. Probably could play some special teams. So there's a lot there. And then we talked about Greg. I said this on Friday's show, so or Thursday's show, I guess. I'm being redundant. Greg paid for some of the draft. The Senior Bowl happens and all that stuff happens. The end of the season happens. And then there's 4 months of analysis and over-analysis. And if you watch draft coverage, the draft is spent with talking heads telling you what people can't do. And I understand that. There's only 4 months. There's only so much you can say. And I think it gets overanalyzed. And a kid like Greg or a guy like Greg pays for just kind of being soft-spoken, kind of being thoughtful, having more to his life than football.
Not in your face.
Yeah. But dude was really good in
a system that did not benefit him.
Yeah, in the best league in the country, in a system where rush ends and they're everywhere in the SEC.
Look at the draft.
Knew exactly what was coming. We talked about that. I mean, if you're a hitter in the box and you know it's a fastball, well, you're dialing up for a fastball. If you know it's a curve, you're waiting on you're keeping your weight back, waiting for the off-speed stuff. Opposing teams knew Ole Miss was fastball, and they stepped into the box ready to hit fastballs. And that wasn't fair to Greg.
And the irony is it made him a really good run blocker. That's what I talked about Greg. It's like, well, he can run block. We just don't know if he can pass block. Well, because you hadn't seen it. I don't know. It's not like he has bad feet. Look, Greg Little has good feet.
My bet is that Greg's going to have a very productive NFL career.
Yeah. And then Javon Patterson taken by the Colts. We're kind of doing it here. Last guy I mentioned. I don't know that the average Ole Miss fan realizes how many snaps Javon Patterson played over a 4-year period. Consummate student athlete, did charity work, did the Sox thing last year. Mm-hmm. A guy, and I mean on the football field, but I mean way off the football field. Not sure there's a more just good dude that kept a locker room going than Javon Patterson over 4 years.
One of my favorite guys that we've covered. Always thoughtful, always polite. Was kind of a spokesperson. When, typically the offensive guard is not a spokesperson for a team. And he kind of was. He's a guy that, I'll be honest, I think he's going to make it in the NFL.
Can play multiple positions. Can play center or guard in a pinch.
He could play center or guard. He's going to play guard. He could play center. And I think if you needed him for a series or two to go to tackle and not get you killed, I think he could do it. Now, he's not a prototypical NFL tackle, and he's not going to become one.
Hey, guy, you got to be taped. Give me 3 plays. All right. Fine.
Yeah. Oh. But I think he's smart enough. I know he's smart enough to kind of learn that. And if you told me that, he was able to help in some special teams on the interior of special teams, I'd buy it. Here's the thing. When you're an NFL team, you have, 52 spots? Something like that. You've got to utilize them. You got to have... When you're after your depth, after your starters and your stars, you've got to have people that can do a myriad of things. And Javon's that.
What did you think of the ESPN versus NFL Network draft coverage as it pertained to Jeffrey Simmons?
Well, ESPN immediately went into the video. Immediately
went into video and immediately went into tons of vocal kind of de-emphasizing, if you will. Kind of went out of their way to be like, hey, you can judge how you want. I can really explain it away, but they did go to it. I just thought it was a strange juxtaposition when you jump in and then try to talk your way out of it.
I don't like people telling me what I should think.
Just show it.
Show it. Let me think what I think. I'm on record. I don't think he ever should have played in the SEC. I thought the video is abhorrent. I know people said, well, he was 18. Okay. That was his sister. There was a history. All of those things. It's my opinion. I have two opinions here. It's my opinion that the only way that would have been excusable is if there was reason to believe that his sister's life was in danger. And it wasn't. Now, on the other side, I do think there comes a point where you deserve a second chance. And I think he's at that point. And so there was a part of me that just, ESPN had to cover it. I thought they kind of over-covered it, and then I thought they really over-talked it. But the people who say, well, it's not part of his story, it's over, they should move on. No, it is absolutely part of his story. And it has nothing to do with the media climate that we're in today. He assaulted another woman. He could have seriously injured or worse that woman. He's a large human being, very strong human being, throwing punches against a defenseless person who's prone on the ground.
You know, I found states, and I get in some ways they're doing their job, but some of their PR push around it to be kind of the most nauseating portion of it, because if you've got to constantly, and I mean constantly, from multiple media members, from multiple PR accounts on Twitter, tell me about all the work in the community and all the different things, you're trying too hard.
Yes.
If you've got to tell me that much, then it doesn't mean much to me in some different ways. Just let it stand on its own. Look, he was apparently a very good citizen for his 3 years in Mississippi State. No doubt about that. And that is noted, and that is one of the reasons he was drafted where he was by Tennessee.
Sure. Because if something else had happened, Tennessee wouldn't have taken him in the first round.
So to act like
with the torn ACL,
to act like he's completely hamstrung moving forward is completely inaccurate. Had he done something else, he wouldn't have been drafted. Period.
And if he hadn't had an ACL injury, it tells you he was going in the top 5 or 6 in the draft.
Yeah. So come on, he's not punished at this point. Just let it be what it is. It was just like Bill Martin drives me freaking insane because it's a deal where just let it be. Quit trying to be the victim in everything that happens. Just chill.
There's
it's
nothing.
All right.
Mississippi State has no right to play the victim card. None.
Big bad ESPN taking advantage of our guy.
No, it's crap. I remember talking to Hugh Freeze the night that video came out. I think I told you this. And I said, what would you do? And Jeffrey Simmons was one of the most painful recruiting losses that he suffered in his... Hugh was at Ole Miss 5 years? 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 5 years.
Jeffrey Simmons was one that, on the list of ones that got away, he's up at the top of that list.
If people only knew.
Yeah. Yeah, boy. Wow.
Hasn't been long enough not telling that story yet.
Not yet. We'll tell it one day.
Let me get 3 more drinks. We'll see.
Yeah. Girl mimosa number 1. But I asked him that night, I said, let's say you'd signed him. What would you do? And look, I've criticized Hugh Freeze a lot. I'm going to give him credit here. He answered, I think, very honestly that night, and anguished, I think we'd have to let him go. I don't think we could bring that in.
He missed one game.
He missed one game.
South Alabama.
And if I recall correctly, and Hugh, if you're hearing this or if someone relays this to you, I'm going to preface this with I might be misremembering this. I do think he said, I think at the very least, you'd have to basically redshirt him. He couldn't play that first year.
When it first happened, I thought that would be the response. I thought that he would have a 1-year suspension. Turned out to be a game.
One game where they played Sisters
It was
of the
South
Poor.
Alabama.
Yeah.
It was South Alabama.
My apologies to South Alabama for comparing you to Sisters of the Poor, but the point stands. So, had they been playing Alabama in week 1, I don't think he would have been suspended. It's my opinion that Greg Sankey did not want him at Mississippi State. And State said, nope, we're doing it.
Good pause there. We'll stop here and go to one Andrew Kennedy, former Ole Miss basketball coach, one of our favorite guests over the years. We'll go to AK now and come back. We'll talk a little baseball. Take a break in the show to tell you about Scripted Jewelry, scriptedjewelry.com. Just head on over to the website. Still thinking about Mother's Day. You have time to check that out. You can't get the normal delivery, but if you want to do the rush order, the rush delivery, they'll still take care of you as late as May the 2nd at Scripted Jewelry. So perfectly personalized that gift to the mother in your life. You can put the special message on there. A lot of different options. You can see recent work. You can see a Mother's Day section. You can see much more at the site at Scripted Jewelry. And, you can save money in the process as well. Rebels 10 in the coupon box there when you're checking out. REBELS10 to save 10% with scriptedjewelry.com. The podcast also brought to you by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. Underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. So your local underwriting understands your market, a leader in condo financing and the float down option. You can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com. And by now you know that Master Cuts provides premium lawn care throughout northern Mississippi. They offer a lot more though. Master Cuts builds custom playgrounds, retaining walls, pool decks, and any outdoor living spaces with paver patios, forestry mulching, and much more. The path to your dream backyard way easier than you think and can be closer than you think as well. You can find them online at gomastercuts.com or get the free quote and tell them rebelgrove.com sent you at 662-607-7773. Podcast also brought to you by G&M Pharmacy there in Oxford. It's on South Lamar. They deliver local in the Oxford area to your home or workplace. And you can find out more or transfer those medications over quickly and easily at 662-236-2222. They take care of everything for you there, and they're offering CBD oil that you know about. It is pharmaceutical grade. It is available in multiple options, multiple forms, and it has been known to help certain things as depression, anxiety, pain, insomnia, and more. It's FDA approved, FDA regulated. The product consistency, purity, and potency will be what you expect and what it should be. That's not true with everywhere you find it on the internet. It's available in all 50 states. It's legal. It is not going to give you any crazy side effects, but try it out. It's got many health benefits, and G&M offers the best there is out there with that. Again, you can find out more at 662-236-2222. Now back to the show.
Andy, thanks for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
So, we can tell a lot of things about you and what's going on with you and all that in a minute, but I got to start with this FBI case, where the NCAA fits into it, what's going on. I'll start with you covered the SEC a lot last year at the SEC Network. You know everybody. You coached in the league for a dozen years. You know everybody. So how surprised were you? I won't put a word in your mouth. How surprised were you with what happened at LSU and with the subsequent reinstatement of Will Wade?
The whole thing has been a little surprising. If you remember, what's it been, 2 years when the Yellow Jackets came out and they were putting guys in handcuffs and arresting coaches, indicting people. And then we've all sat back and said, wow, that's pretty serious. What's next? And we really hadn't got to the next phase yet. So initially, I was... anytime you bring the Federal Bureau of Investigation into the equation, it changes the dynamics.
Yeah.
So originally, I was like everybody, like, wow, what's going to happen? And it's taken some time, but as this continues to unfold, it's taken a few twists and turns. When LSU was brought up into the season, what an incredible year they had. The timing of it was very curious to me. Will Wade was suspended as his team is going into the finale, I believe.
Right about to clinch the at least a share of the title because they didn't know what was happening with that Tennessee Auburn game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he's not with them for the SEC tournament, and then he's not with them in the NCAA tournament, and then lo and behold, he gets reinstated, and then 48 hours later, the athletic director retires. So this thing is, I think this thing's got a lot of layers yet to be peeled back.
So Greg Sankey comes out and says, hey, this is just one chapter in the story, which I thought was an awfully cryptic comment for the commissioner of the league to make. Because he could have easily said, oh, yeah, hey, we looked into it. We didn't find anything. He's the coach, blah, blah, blah. And now it comes out, I think it was Ross Dellinger reported that they've redone the deal.
Some language change.
Yeah, changed a lot of buyout language. Your opinion is, will Wade the coach at LSU when the ball tips off November the 10th-ish?
I don't know because I don't know everything that is out there. And I don't think LSU knows. I don't think the Southeastern Conference knows. I don't think the NCAA knows. As we were talking earlier, as there is a criminal investigation ongoing, I don't think the feds have shared any of the information in which they have gathered with the NCAA until the criminal stuff ends, at which time I would be very surprised if that information was not shared and then the NCAA can dig in and do what they have to do.
So, you know everybody in coaching. I mean, you had all those years at Ole Miss, you've been on Hug staff, all that stuff. You know everybody in coaching.
Most everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean that I'm not blowing sunshine. You just know everybody. So when you talk to these guys, and I know you have, I'm not asking you to violate confidences or whatever, but the general tone, what does the coaching business think about what's going on with this case? It was in the news last week. The case is ongoing. What's his name is on the stand right now.
Christian Dawkins.
Yeah. Thank you. His name escaped my mind for a minute. It might be the vodka.
Yeah.
He's on the stand and he's just naming names, man. And I mean, if he lies under oath and they catch him lying under oath, he faces 65 years in prison. So my point, AK, is that he's probably telling the truth and he's putting all this stuff out. When you talk to other people in coaching, guys that you've coached with, guys that you've coached against, etc., guys that you just know through what you do, what do they want to see happen?
I know this. I think a lot of times, and I've had this conversation a lot, I think a lot of times people get confused with the facts. The he said, she said stuff, oh, I talked to Neal and we talked about this and that, I don't think that's relevant at all. I really don't. I think though when the feds have you on wiretap saying that you are going to do something in violation of the NCAA rules.
And they have video of all these coaches coming into the suite in Las Vegas.
I think those guys are going to get prosecuted as it relates to the NCAA. I'm not saying they should go to jail.
Okay.
But I do think when the NCAA has the opportunity, they are going to have to act in a very stern manner. I would be shocked if they didn't. If they don't, come on, man.
What happens if they don't?
If they don't, it may be the secession from the union, so to speak. It may be this is the end of the NCAA as a governing body as we know it. I don't know how you can. How you can have any teeth if you do not pursue to what is made available to you based on this information.
Is that what coaches want to happen?
I think coaches want, swift and stern punishment to those that have been caught red-handed. And let's be honest with you, if you get caught on a federal wiretap, you are caught red-handed. And if you don't act on that, come on, man, what are we doing?
Yeah, to me, that's the fascinating part about it. Sean Miller's still at Arizona as of this moment. Will Wade's at LSU. They're on.
Due process is something, and I think,
you're right.
and I think the NCAA is really. I mean, we would all hope to get that due process if we did something.
Sure.
Walking down the streets of Oxford. I think they're being very, very cautious until all the facts are out, simply because everybody's trying to avoid lawsuits.
I'm assuming that when you hear the testimony of Dawkins and stuff, none of this is all that surprising to you as someone who's worked in the business.
No. The only thing that is surprising is that it's caught on tape. No, it's not surprising to anybody that's dealt in this world.
So when you work at a program like the one where you worked, where I mean, I'm gonna keep it real.
Yep.
If you wanted to do that stuff, the resources aren't there to do it.
Well, I think
how do you compete?
I think it's interesting. Some of the things that have come out to, not to marginalize it, but the common fan is that there were a number of schools that would have loved to be in the game. They couldn't get to the table, because they don't have guys that are, they don't have good enough players that translate. They're not lining up for 3-star guys and trying. They want guys that they feel can be pros, and they've been signified as pros for a long time. So I think that's what's kind of fascinating. A lot of guys that would be involved if they had better players. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, the coach that goes into that suite in Vegas is like, yeah, man, I'll do anything it takes.
That's right. I need some help.
I got to get that guy.
That's right. That's right.
Has it always been that way, or has it increased over the years? Has the game changed?
I don't know. There's 353 Division I basketball schools. I would say that for the high end, for those high end guys, there's always been a market. Obviously, the money's so crazy. I was watching the NFL draft, as I'm sure you guys were.
Yeah.
I know DK Metcalf better than I know A.J. Brown and Greg Little, but I was obviously pulling for all of them. But I know DK because my daughters went to Oxford High School when he was a kid, and I remember seeing him on the basketball court as like an 8th grader. My daughter was a cheerleader, and I'm like, who is this kid? I mean, he was, at that time, you could say, man, this guy's different than these other 8th graders. So I was watching it, and the money and the opportunity, just hearing your name called, it's such a life change. And at the NBA, it's a completely different ball game, and everybody wants a piece of that.
So what's up with you? I know you did this 1 year as the SEC analyst. You got rave reviews. People loved you on it. What was it like for you? I know at one point you and I talked about how you kind of missed the grind of it.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I was a coach for 23 years, and I almost feel guilty for not being more stressed out, because that's how you're wired as a coach. It was a great year for me on a number of levels. First and foremost, from my perspective, very seldom in life, somebody says, you hear this all the time growing up, man, experience is the greatest teacher. I don't believe that. I don't believe experience teaches you anything if you don't take time to reflect upon what the experience taught you. So, but in life, you do not have time. Life doesn't give you a lot of reflection time.
Right.
You've got to carve that out. And most of the time, it's done in a situation that you wouldn't choose, that you're forced to stop and reflect. So, this year gave me a great season of reflection. And it also allowed me to see things from a different perspective. Think about this. Again, I was a coach for 23 years. I never went to another practice other than the ones that I was involved in, whether it be as a player or as an assistant or as a head coach. I'm not going to other people's practices because, number one, I don't have the time, and number two, I'm not invited. I'm the enemy.
Right.
So now as a TV guy, I did, 40-some-odd deals. I got an opportunity to see how different people do different things, and that was very educational for me. It reconfirmed in my mind some of the things that I've always done, and it also opened up some new ideas, so that was terrific.
Who were some practices that stuck out in your mind?
It's completely different. It's amazing how everybody does things differently. Like John Calipari to Ben Howland to Rick Barnes to Mike White to Kermit. I didn't go to Kermit's practices. I didn't do any Ole Miss stuff. They're kind of funny about that. And I don't think Kermit's funny. I don't think Kermit's got a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. But I get it. There needs to be a few more layers of separation. I get it. But it was fascinating to see how different people do different things, and the intensity, and coaches were very open and allowing me into film study and just seeing how they talk to their team. And so from that perspective, it was awesome. ESPN was really good to me, gave me a platform, allowed me to stay in the game. I enjoyed it. Do I miss coaching? Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a little bit of a whack job. I do miss some of that, not all of it. I don't miss it so much in April and May.
Yeah, do you miss recruiting?
No, you don't miss that. No, I like the engagement with the players, and I like to establish relationships with guys and try to see what their vision is and try to make that vision become a reality.
It's funny, I always, especially as the season went on and Ole Miss was going for an NCAA bid and stuff, people would say, man, what do you think Andy thinks? I'm like, Andy's happy for these kids, man. I mean, he recruited these kids. But I'll give you an opportunity to answer it. When you watched Ole Miss down the stretch as they were fighting for that spot and they ultimately got the bid? What were your emotions?
Well, you got to remember of the number one, and I've told you guys this. We've said this a million times on air, off air. Kermit Davis and I go back to the '80s. I've known Kermit a long time. He is a really good basketball coach, and he and I are friends. So when he came in, I had put 12 years of blood, sweat, and tears into this program. When we got here in 06 and we left in 18, the job has changed dramatically in a number of fronts. I'm proud of that. I'm proud to have been a part of that. I'm proud of a lot of the things that we've accomplished. I'm proud of the fact that we have put it in a position now that it has never been before. And the kids that were on that team, Terrence Davis, Brian Tyree, Devontae Schuler, even Dom Olenichek, Bruce Stevens, those guys were guys that, again, we sat in front of them and we convinced them that Ole Miss is the best place for them to come to school. So for them to then go out and have success, to get to the NCAA tournament, which is the pinnacle, it's how you're judged. Forget about whatever happened. Did you make the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, sure.
And so for them to experience that and to see that joy on their face, especially a guy like Terrence Davis who had been here and been through the grind and really has had a terrific career, it was gratifying to me. I felt good for those kids. I felt good for Kermit because I know now he can use that momentum that they created, which is so hard to create, and hopefully take that into recruiting. Because as you and I talked about, the next step for Ole Miss is, quite frankly, we've had a lot of good players.
Got to land the great players.
You got to get pros. If you want to take steps up, you have to get pros. The guys that you're trying to catch. Now, you're never going to be Kentucky. That ain't going to happen. But for you to get in those top 3-4 slots and to really have opportunities, you got to get some pros. And I wasn't able to get them. Tried real hard. Had really good college players, but Kerm, hopefully through the momentum, has put himself in a position to have guys that when it comes NBA draft time here in a couple of months in June, there's some guys on your team involved in that process.
I don't mean this to be a gotcha question. One thing that I love about you is how frank you are with answers. If the system doesn't change, can you get those guys at Ole Miss? Can you get pros?
Chris Beard, who obviously just had a magical run at Texas Tech. I've known Chris Beard a long time. And he said something as they were going through their march, and I'm gonna mess it up a little bit. I drank a lot last night. But for recruiting, you can recruit pros. Like, okay, everybody knows these are the best players, and these guys got a chance to be a pro, and you can recruit them. What Texas Tech, you're probably not beating a lot of guys at Ole Miss. You're probably not going to recruit them. So what do you have to do? You got to evaluate them, and you got to develop them. Those are the three ways to get them. You recruit them, Blue Bloods recruit them. Zion could have. I mean, come on, man. He's pretty special. You zero in. These are the guys we want. You recruit them. At Ole Miss. And I thought we did a pretty good job of it at times. You have to evaluate. You have to see. You have to be, and then you got to develop it. And that's what they've done at Texas Tech. I think Chris Beard was very prophetic in that. Jarrett Culver, he gets the job. Jarrett Culver is going to be a lottery pick this year. Took him to obviously the national championship game. They're a few minutes away from winning the title, and that kid's from Lubbock, Texas. So it was a little good fortune. LSU last time LSU went to the Final Four back to them. They had Big Baby. He's from Baton Rouge. They had the Temple brothers. They're from Baton Rouge.
Certain degree of luck.
Well, timing's everything, bro. Timing's everything. So Kermit's really good. He'll find a way, and you got to find your niche, and you got to be fortunate.
Guests join the Oxford Exxon podcast on the Patterson and Earhart hotline. Patterson and Earhart, attorneys at law, specialize in personal injury law and real estate law, but theirs is a general practice that can handle any of your legal needs. If you think you've got a legal issue coming up, think you've got a legal issue that may or may not need to be dealt with, get in touch with Patterson and Earhart. Take advantage of their relationship with the podcast. You're going to get one of them on the phone within the same day, guaranteed. They'll take you through what they think, and then you can go from there. And that initial consultation is free. So whether you've been injured in a car wreck or have other legal issues, give them a call, 662-526-1992, or check out their website, pelaws.com. This podcast is also sponsored by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust, based in Madison, Mississippi, represents clients in more than 20 states, has advisors in 3 states. What Pinnacle Trust does is it provides detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective research and information, not emotions. So regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, and put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan. Cookie cutter financial planners put you in a box, but at Pinnacle Trust, a box is built just for you. To learn more about Pinnacle Trust, go to pintrust.com. That's PINN trust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fee. Podcast also brought to you by the Westin Jackson. Restore serenity to your soul by visiting Soul Spa. It's the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. Indulge in personalized massages, signature facials, soothing body treatments, and much more on their extensive spa list. Escape from the everyday and rejuvenate yourself in their luxury spa today. And then you can gather at Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro, sip on a creative craft cocktail, or enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Chef Caden's mission is to connect guests with the community through local partnerships. So gather at Estelle tonight.
Last couple of things. How good's the league going to be next season?
I think the league has turned the page. To me, the hardest thing to do is change the narrative. Changing the narrative for a program, for a league, for a brand, as we're sitting here in Blue Delta.
That was my next question.
Hey, we're sitting here with Blue Delta. Listen, this is going to be a game changer. You guys know Nick and Josh as well as I do. I'm 6'7", 220 pounds, man. I grew up wearing sweats my whole life. They turned me on to these jeans, and I'm a believer. And I see how they grind, and I see what they've been able to do. When people come to Oxford, they say, well, you got to go down to the square, man. Isn't it a great place? And have you gone by City Grocery? You know, people ask about City Grocery because it's kind of an institution. That's what Blue Delta's going to be. I believe that with all my heart. I think people are going to come by this studio where we're sitting right now in 3-4 years and say that's where it all started.
How did you get started with Nick and them? I know you and Nick were super tight.
Yeah, I just met him, man. I just met him, and you know, he was like, hey, come by. And again, I'm grinding, and I didn't come by, and I see him again, and I respect his grind, man. I respect what he's done. I respect what they've built. And I think a lot of people know about it, but they don't understand where it is. This thing is going to blow up, and it's going to be an institution in this community. I believe that. I respect what they've built and what they are building.
Yeah, some of the stories they could tell that they don't tell are just
pretty mind-boggling.
Superstar stuff.
I want to tell you this. At Ole Miss for 12 years, I brought a lot of people into town, and you hear about the Grove. And so the Grove has a lot of hype. So sometimes that hype can overcome expectation. You know, I never one time when I brought a person down, whether it be from California or Europe or New York or wherever, did they leave saying, man, that Grove's overrated, man. They all said, man, I love that place. It's the same with Blue Delta. I've turned a lot of people onto this, and I hadn't had one person say, man, those jeans aren't any good. I hadn't had one. Everybody says, man, that's the best thing. That's a game changer.
What's your favorite pair?
You know, I've got so many.
Everybody's got a favorite pair.
You know, I like them all, man.
Yeah.
I like them all. Back to your SEC question.
Yeah. So I'll give you my theory before you answer it. My theory is that this is the year that a sub-500 SEC team gets in the tournament.
You know, it happened 2 years ago. Alabama got in at 8-10.
Oh, you're right. Well, I think it's happening again.
You know, I hate to bring this up, but Oklahoma was, 7-11?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, and we're in easy in the 8-9 game because they played, obviously, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
They're in the 8-9 game. Ole Miss is 20-13 and 10-8 in the league. Mm-hmm. The league went to 18 league games. I believe it was in 2012-13. That's when A&M and Missouri came in. So I coached 6 years where we had 18 league games. We won 10 or more 4 times, and 2 of those times didn't go to the tournament. At 10-8 twice, we didn't go to the tournament. Why? Because the perception of the league, the narrative of the league was different. Well, this year it was kind of a perfect storm, so to speak. Pac-12 is historically low, bad. Mountain West, worst in the history of the Mountain West. A-10, there's no bid stealers. When the leagues shifted a few years ago, when there was more, the Davidsons of the world went into the A-10, and it eliminates some bid stealers. So the Power Fives can eat now. And all you got to do is, it's kind of back the way that it was. Schedule competitively in your non-league. Ole Miss had a huge win against Baylor, and at the time, no one thought Baylor was going to be good, but they ended up being good. Right. So that's cloud in your non-league. They didn't have any bad non-league losses, and then you win 10 games in a Power 5, you're going to get in the tournament now. That has changed. I really thought it changed 2 years ago when my good friend Frank Martin went to the Final Four. I really believe that's what changed it. Every league has somebody that needs to be good. In this league, it's Kentucky, and it's Florida. And Mike White's done a terrific job, and Billy Donovan had that thing at such a high level, back-to-back national titles, Elite Eight, Sweet 16s, or nothing. So people respect Florida and Kentucky, so it's important for somebody outside of that footprint to make a run. When South Carolina was able to do it, I think it awakened the nation to the quality of the depth of the league. What then happened, they used that momentum, as we were talking about earlier, they used that momentum to capture 8 bids the following year, and then they backed that up with 7. Narrative changed. I think the SEC network, even not because they're sending me checks, but they have changed things, man.
Yeah.
For men's basketball,
no doubt.
Because it's one thing when you go to California and you sit in front of mama and you say, hey, you can watch son play every day, and that's real. All you got to do is turn it on. There's so much, and I think it's helped. Even though you guys know this better than I, Chase, especially you. Ole Miss baseball is a national brand because the SEC cares about college baseball, and most of the country doesn't.
Yeah.
And so the SEC network has helped baseball because of television and because of notoriety.
Because you got to put something on the screen.
24 hours a day, bro.
Right.
24 hours a day. I'd sit there on those Saturdays, long day in there.
Football's king, but they only play once a week, and you got to have something for the rest of the week.
And you know what? This would be a good study for you. I bet you they show more replays of college football. I bet they show college football on the SEC network at least once a day, right, in a replay fashion. 365 days a year. They have to.
Have to, yeah.
I mean, they're always showing something, to your point. There's 24 hours in a day. They're showing something. So that has really helped the SEC as it relates to basketball. I think the narrative changed, though. I really do. I was, when I got in the league in 06, it was the back-to-back of Billy's national titles. It was 12 teams in the league. We were getting 5 or 6. Then it went through a dip. The non-league scheduling where you were hurting one another in league because people's non-league numbers. Best team I had here, 12-13. We win 27 games. We lose at Mississippi State. You remember that? Yeah. I think you were there.
I was there.
Hey, I'm dead man walking. And Mississippi State at the time, I think, was like in the RPI was like 220. I mean, something. It was a
250.
It was a dagger to our numbers, losing to your in-state rival on the road. They've cleaned that up now, where there aren't any more of those daggers, which are devastating if you lose on the road. And I think that certainly helps the league.
How'd you get that team back, by the way, after that day?
Oh, I don't know, man. I remember this. I remember coming back. And my daughters at the time were in middle school. That's a tough age for girls. So I had to talk with them like, hey, we got to power up now. You're going to hear some things about your dad. We're going to be all right. It's all going to work out. And they were soldiers. We then came back and we played Alabama on Senior Day.
I remember.
So it gave, even though everybody was down, it gave them something. We're Senior Day, man. Let's go. So we were able to win that game, and then we went to LSU, and we were
played our asses off.
And we were battling for a double bye. At the time, I think if we beat LSU, we ended up tying for second. We got the 3 seed, be a tiebreaker because we went 12-6 in the league. So we ended up beating LSU. So we got a double bye, and then we looked at our road, and Missouri, that was the Frank Haith Missouri team that had some issues after the fact, but they were really good. That Missouri team we knew was going to be an opportunity for a quality win. We'd beaten them, they'd beaten us. We were 1-1 in the series, so we felt like, oh man, if we get that one, and then that was when Nerlens Noel. You should know this. Remember, Nerlens Noel had tore his leg, ACL. So Kentucky, they were not at full strength, and Vanderbilt, it was a bad team. It was maybe Kevin's worst team, right around 500, and Vanderbilt upset Kentucky. So we knew after beating Missouri on a floater, Derek Millinghouse, shout out to him. wherever he is. He had a floater, so we then play Vanderbilt, who had upset Kentucky. And if you lose to Kentucky, okay, you're still fine. But you can't lose to Vanderbilt.
And they had no legs
So we beat them, and then we're in the finals, and we end up winning the whole thing. Yeah. So, I don't know. And then we went and we were able to tap Wisconsin, Bo Ryan, and then we lose to LaSalle on a last-second shot. Remember, Philly floater right over top of Reginald Buckner, best shot blocker in the history of the program. That was the year Wichita State goes to the Final Four. The one in our region was Gonzaga, and Wichita State had upset Gonzaga in the 8-1 game. So we would have had we might could have been Wichita State.
Yeah. All right, last thing is self-serving. By the time people hear this, game one will be in the books, but I know you watch tons of basketball. Is this the year the Warriors don't win it?
Man, I don't know. If
Thompson's got a bad ankle, Curry's got
a bad, and Katie's got a bad disposition.
He does.
He's got a bad disposition.
He's a bad man.
He's a bad. I still, if I'm a betting man, I'm still going with them. I don't think Houston can beat them. That starts Sunday. I don't think they can beat them, but I'm actually, for me, I watch the East more than the West. The East is intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Milwaukee, I love the Greek Freak.
And there's more to them than just him.
I agree.
And Budenholzer's terrific.
He's terrific. Eric Bledsoe's been lights out. Them versus Boston, I think, is going to be a great series because Kyrie is playing with an edge now.
Hayward's playing a little better.
He's back. That's right. That's right. Love that group. Philly's kind of an enigma. Joel Embiid, I can take or leave him sometimes. Doing too much. But that's
I love Kawhi.
Yeah, terrific, right?
Oh my God,
terrific. How about your boys, man? I know you're an Oak City guy, man, and I'm a Billy fan, and I've been watching them. And
they got to make changes.
There ain't no doubt.
They got to sit down, and I don't know how you communicate that to Russell Westbrook. Who's had the career that he's had, and he plays with that chip. And that chip is his best friend, and it's his worst enemy.
That's how it works, isn't it?
It is.
Sometimes your greatest strength is your biggest weakness.
And Billy's got to figure out a way. And I don't know that, and this isn't a knock on Billy any more than it was a knock on Scott Brooks or anybody else. I don't know that anyone can communicate that to him. I don't know if
he's receptive to that message.
Right. I don't know that it's in his DNA at this point to hear that.
I agree.
And it's funny. In December and January, I know we got to go. In December and January, he played, I thought, and I watched more of their games than I'd like to admit. I thought he played the best basketball of his career. He was deferring. He wasn't shooting well. But dude was still averaging a triple-double. He was shooting 60% from the free throw line, 30% from the floor.
Right.
And Paul George was an MVP candidate. And Terrence Ferguson, who's 19, was getting almost 20 a night. And Grant was getting 16, 17 a night. Steven Adams was having a career year. And I thought, wow, they're positioning themselves for the next, because Katie's going to leave, everything.
Sure.
I thought they're positioning themselves where next year it'll be he and PG's third year together. And they've got all this chemistry. And then Paul George got hurt. And I suspect the shoulder injury is worse than was reported. And Russell just went back to doing his old thing, and that won't work.
No.
And it's the definition of insanity, when you do the same thing over and over, despite the fact that the results tell you that it won't work. And so I don't know. I don't know. Some people say, well, they got to go out and get a Bradley Beal or whatever. And
I think they have to change the dynamic of their team a little bit.
I do too.
And they've got two max guys. Obviously, Russ is he's a max guy, and Paul George is under contract. So, those are two perennial all-stars. But I do think they have to change the dynamic of their group, and I think they will. I'm a Sam Presti fan. I think he's done a good job, and I love Billy. I hope that continues. And I'm an Oak City. I love to watch Russell Westbrook. He is must-see TV. I'm not sure I'd like to coach him.
It'd be hard to coach.
Well, he's a lot. He's a lot,
I will stop you, I swear, because I do want to get your thoughts here. Zion Williamson,
going
to be the first pick.
Yep.
We'll see who gets it. He's a great college player. He's great for the college game, all that stuff. How good of a pro is he?
I think he's special. I think physically, I made this comparison, and it was a little outside the box because everybody's trying to figure out who he's like, and he's such an anomaly. He's really not like. I compared him to Earl Campbell. I think he's like Earl Campbell. Yeah. I mean, Earl Campbell was just a physical freak of nature. Back in the old, and I was a Steeler fan. This is the old Bum Phillips in the Astrodome when you
down the door.
I mean, yeah, Houston Oilers. Remember they used to do that?
Yeah.
And they'd give that dude the ball, man, and everybody knew he was going to have the ball, and they got 9 in the box, and he's going to get 6 yards. He's just, you can't even do anything with him. I think Zion at the next level, because of his strength and his quick twitch ability, is going to be a special player. I think he rolls off the shelf getting 18 and 10. I think he's a 25 and 12 guy.
Wow.
I think he's so quick twitch and he's so strong. I think he's going to be phenomenal.
Well, I hope for your sake you get back into coaching, because I know you want to do it. For our sake, I'll miss you on television.
Well,
because you are phenomenal at this, my man.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'll tell you this: I've never once had any delusion about who I am. I ain't John Wooden. I know that I can't sit back and be choosy, but I'm trying to be, because I also realize I don't want to put myself in a position where it's untenable, where I have no chance. So I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I've been fortunate. Life's good. If I get the right opportunity, I would love to explore it, but who knows when and where that will happen.
Andy, thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
The podcast is also brought to you in part by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. Whether you're thinking about that golf trip with the guys you'll never forget, or maybe the anniversary trip she'll never forget, whether you're thinking about playing at St. Andrews or sitting at a cafe in Paris, talk to John Edwards before you try to do it yourself. If you're thinking about going to Florida, the Caribbean, whatever the case may be, get in touch with John. He's part of a Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows John to supply his clients with added values and unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. John traveled the globe for 37 years before getting into the travel business, so he knows the extra attention needed to make a special trip one that creates a lifetime of unique memories. So if you're thinking about going with the boys to Pebble Beach or taking her to Napa for the vacation of her dreams, call John, give him some parameters and a budget, and let him give you some options. And know this, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. Call John at 901-494-3387 or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. It's a podcast that's also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They have a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles, great lease deals as well. Go in, test drive one today. Tell Gene and Sandy that you heard about Grenada Nissan on the podcast. You'll get Rebel savings on top of the already great deals at Grenada Nissan. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. And we're brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry is an Oxford-based RE/MAX legacy realty agent. He's been in Oxford more than 4 decades. No one knows the residential and condo market in Oxford better than Harry. Harry is also a big part of Savannah Square. It's a new 9-acre development, 7/10 of a mile from the Oxford downtown square, conveniently located east of North Lamar, just a short stroll from the Midtown Shopping Center. So you're close to restaurants, you're close to stores, close to the YMCA. It's incredibly convenient. Savannah Square will initially consist of 32 standalone detached structures ranging in size from about 1,100 square feet to 2,400 square feet. These homes have wonderful layouts, impeccable finishes, and you can inspect them at the model at 215 William Street. Give Harry a call, take a look at the model, get more information about this great new development while they are still available. You can view more at SavannahSquareOxford.com or call Harry Alexander with RE/MAX Legacy Realty at 662-801-5621.
Jump into some college baseball now here on the show. Just riding the roller coaster 1 week at a time, as there are 3 weekend series remaining, but a big one just happened. Ole Miss sweeps Texas A&M. 2 walk-offs. They win 5-4, scoring a couple runs in the 11th inning on Thursday night, a game that went to right at midnight. Thomas Dillard with the game-winning single as the clock moved into Friday. They rout the Aggies 13-3 on Friday, and then on Saturday win 3-2, a pitcher's duel in the series finale. They get a wild pitch walk-off with the bases loaded. and I think 1 out at the time on Saturday. So the Rebels back in the hosting conversation, at least back in hosting contention. They have a chance probably to go 5-4 the rest of the way if they win their non-con games or just don't lay some crazy egg and get back into one of those top 16 teams to host a regional. 13-8 in the SEC. That's far ahead of last season's schedule. At one point last year, they were 12-11. They got hot now at the end. They won the Sunday game against Carolina. They swept Auburn. They finished 2 out of 3 against Alabama. And the road's not easy. They go to Baton Rouge. Everybody knows, and they haven't won since '82. Mississippi State back at home. The Bulldogs are hot. They've taken the first 2 from Georgia as we tape this. Obviously, we have no idea what happens in the Saturday game. If we did, I would be in Vegas right now. And
drinking mimosas.
Laced with probably something stronger. And then Tennessee to close it, who has struggled against Arkansas. The Razorbacks have just beaten the crap out of the Volunteers 2 straight games. Arkansas may be the hottest team in the country at the moment, but finish up in Knoxville against Tennessee. But hey, they've got a chance, 13-8, and I'll tell you what did it is it's all about starting pitching. Will Etheridge goes really, really strong on Thursday night. He kind of outdueled John Doxakis of Texas A&M, gave Ole Miss a chance to get into that bullpen of the Aggies, and then Doug Nikhazy continues to probably be the MVP of the team from the standpoint of if he didn't do what he is doing, they'd have no real answer there on Saturdays. Instead, he gives them just consistent outing after consistent outing. He goes 7 innings. He strikes out 10. He doesn't walk a soul. Gives up 2 runs, 1 of those earned, and just fantastic. I mean, really, his body language, his demeanor, everything about him is exactly what you want out of a freshman. And I think Mike Bianco gave a very honest answer after Friday's game. And I don't think he ever thought Gunnar would see it or whoever he was directing it at. I think it was Hoagland. But Brian Scott Rippey asked him, he goes, 2 weeks in a row now, Doug Nikhazy has beaten Tanner Burns of Auburn, at least opposed him, and won the game. And then Asa Lacy of Texas A&M, another very talented left-hander. Is there something that kind of gets him going in those type of games? And Mike goes on to credit him, and he kind of makes the statement of, hey, you'd kind of like all your freshmen to sort of have that mentality a little bit. And it was, well, duh, but I thought it was some frustration coming out maybe a little bit toward Hill or Hoagland or just the collective, if you will. But Gunnar Hoagland, I'm sure he didn't hear Mike, but he responded really big yesterday. Goes 6 innings.
I'm sure he saw the quote.
You think so?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah.
You think Mike was speaking to the media a little on Friday?
When I saw the quote, I thought Mike was talking to Hoagland.
Did you really?
I did.
Hey, your teammate's doing it.
That's frankly, for coaches who are smart, that's how you use the media.
Send a little message.
Answer a question. It was a good question.
Yeah.
You compliment the kid, Nikhazy, who's basically a lion out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you send a little message to the other kid that says, you could do that too. Because sometimes when the kid reads it, it's different than sitting in the coach's office getting berated.
Yeah, no one's yelling it at him.
Yeah, it's more of a subtle thing.
But Hoagland yesterday goes 6 innings, keeps Ole Miss in the game, gives up, I think, he gave up 1 run, and then there was a leadoff triple to start the 7th, who eventually scored. And that was the other run against him.
Yeah, but you take that outing all day long.
Oh, on a finale?
Yes, in general.
That's my point. The bullpen was intact. Austin Miller hadn't thrown all weekend. Caracci had thrown because they went 11 innings the day before, or 2 days before, but he was fine. Just gave him a chance, and it was that deal where if Ole Miss is not going to hit left-handers real well, but the way you beat them is you get them out of there. Yeah. And they really did a good job offensively to lengthen at bats. They made Doxakis throw 24 pitches in the first inning of the series on Thursday. It was, frankly, other than some defensive miscues, which they had, it was a really textbook series on how to manage a pitching staff, how to manage a lineup around 2 really good arms, and then, frankly, how to kind of finish it on a Saturday where, and I get you can do this with any 2 numbers, but this late in the season, it feels like a world of difference between 13-8 and 12-9 in the SEC. That feels like more than one game.
What's interesting is with 3 weekends left, I have, and I don't cover them. I follow because we talk about it. No idea what to expect. Because this team has, you have probably less of an idea. This team has blown weekends, frankly. There's no other word for it. That they should have won 2 or 3 games. And then they've had a couple of weekends, and now we just had one where they exceeded expectations.
I think going in, you said, hey, you really need to get 2. Well, they got 3. When they went to Arkansas, there was hey, just get 1. Well, they got 2. Damn near got 3. There's no way to predict what they're going to do the rest of the way. Here's the thing about LSU. Yeah, I know what history says. I'm not convinced that truly matters. It might matter to 5 a little bit in the way that he impacts, the way that he manages a game. Maybe he gets a little keyed up, a little tight. His son's on the other team. All of those things. But I'm not convinced that Doug Nikhazy knows the history. And I'm absolutely would be willing to bet my lilac pants here, and my second mimosa that hopefully is coming soon. I would be willing to bet both of those that he doesn't care. So,
hey, Doug, we're probably losing the series because in 1984, there was an 8th inning error that threw off some stuff.
Yeah, I think he would have blown you off by now. But here's the LSU. You'll be impressed that I know this.
Okay.
They don't have a lot of left-handed pitching.
0.
They're just right-handers at you. It's a great matchup for Ole Miss.
Ole Miss can hit some right-handers now.
I know Ole Miss would prefer to have the series in Oxford, but it's a really good matchup.
If there's ever been one winnable in Baton Rouge, this is it. Because frankly, even on the mound, Zach Hess is back into the weekend rotation out of necessity. He's not a Friday night arm. Maneri's been trying to force that round peg for a while. And it's happened just because they don't really have a guy. So you throw Hess, you throw your dynamic arm in there and see what happens. And then Cole Henry was banged up this last weekend. Cole Henry was banged up this last weekend. They're scuffling from a pitching standpoint, and kind of like Ole Miss, the lineup has been all over the place. Sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's not. Alex Box has been a house of horrors for Ole Miss. They've struggled late in games. They've made some mistakes over the years.
But a lot of that, Chase, is because LSU's been a national.
Well, yeah. If I look, and I probably will this week. You ask Mike Bianco, hey, why don't you beat LSU more? And he'll laugh and go, well, LSU wins most of its home games. Look at everybody's record against them. I mean, I don't know.
Over the last 20 years, without a shadow of a doubt, no question, period, they have been a top 5 program.
And Ole Miss doesn't get swept down there.
Right.
They just don't win the series.
But that's because they're usually really, really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not super complicated.
Frankly, I think Mississippi State is the most difficult series left, even though it's in Oxford. I think LSU at Baton Rouge is an easier series than State in Oxford.
In other words, Ole Miss is going to go get 1 in LSU, and they're going to get 2 against State, and then they'll go to. I mean, who knows?
They're 8-1 this season against Texas A&M, Florida, and Arkansas, and 5-7 against everyone else.
Yes, there's just no predicting it, and so fans, listen. I'm not people.
The Arkansas team that swept State out last weekend.
Yeah. People think I'm making fun of fans when I say this. I'm not. But if you've ridden the roller coaster this far, the odds are overwhelming that there are still some dips.
Well, college baseball is the perfect sport for crazy. Because while it's 56 games, that is still such a small sample size from a baseball standpoint.
That's 1/3 of a major league.
Yeah, so
season.
You've got all these swings, and you have a bad 3 weeks, and it's like, oh my God, we suck. Well, no, it's just I get why fans hate the that's baseball thing, but there are weeks where it just doesn't work, and it just kind of is what it is.
Well, at Auburn was kind of that's baseball.
It's timing,
and then the Tuesday game against Mississippi State, which absolutely counts.
Hey.
You have to approach the game in a certain way, and it got away from Ole Miss. And
I think Kendall Rogers is going to have Ole Miss a host in his projections on Monday.
So they're at 13. If they get to 18,
I think 18 is the number. Now, don't lose to Arkansas State and Southern Miss. I mean, those count. Now, Southern Miss in Hattiesburg is not going to hurt you, but you still need to win it.
Right.
Arkansas State, don't lose in Jonesboro. Don't do that. But and Zach Phillips has been fantastic in the midweek lately. That's kind of the more underrated things because State bludgeoned the bullpen the other day and Chase Cockrell didn't catch a ball in right field. But Phillips has been pretty good for 3 or 4 weeks in the midweek. Ole Miss, as of this morning, 22 in the RPI. They went 29-22 in 4 days.
What's the rest of the SEC? Do you know it?
I do. Vanderbilt, 15-6 in the league. They have now come back into first place in the SEC.
It's amazing what he's able to do with so few resources.
Tim Corbin is basically Casey Stengel at this point. They are number 2 in the RPI this season.
Yeah, the little engine that could.
Georgia is 5, but they're down to 13-7 after State's killed them twice in a row. In Starkville, Missouri's 26. They are 9-10-1 in the SEC, though.
But they won't host.
Well, no.
Right.
Tennessee is 10 in the RPI, but they're 9-11 in the SEC.
And they won't host. So
No.
Vanderbilt's going to host. Georgia's going to host.
Yeah, Florida's not going to host.
No.
They're 8-12. Carolina and Kentucky are sure as hell not going to
Right.
host. Arkansas is going to host. They are
Yes.
14-6 in the SEC, and they have a number 4 RPI.
Okay, there's your third SEC host.
Mississippi State has a 9 RPI and is 12-8 in the SEC.
And there's your fourth SEC host.
LSU has a 20 RPI, and they are 12-8 in the SEC.
It's kind of where I was getting. The LSU Ole Miss series might be about who's positioning themselves to host.
Well, and that's why on this head-to-head thing a little bit, even if you want, hey, the SEC is going to get an extra win because they're dang good. A&M is at 18, but you've knocked them down a peg and swept them. Yeah. So that's where Kendall's going to put them in, is he's going to just swap them out with A&M and go, hey, they're going to finish okay, and they're going to host in that spot.
Yeah.
I think that's what's coming.
I think Arkansas, Mississippi State, Georgia, and Vanderbilt are set. I mean, barring disasters.
Yeah, that's fair. Because they're the teams that would have a chance even at 17.
Right.
To get the host. Now, we're talking about national seeds.
And Arkansas is 14-6. They got one more this weekend.
Yeah, they play today.
Yeah.
Against Tennessee.
Yeah. Amazing how Arkansas Dave Van Horn, because the contiguous scholarship thing doesn't help them at all.
Doesn't really do much for them.
No, it's not a factor for families who are making decisions.
A kid in Wichita gets in-state tuition to Arkansas, but hey, it's fine.
That's why I say this.
A kid in Biloxi could go to Arkansas cheaper than Ole Miss, potentially.
Out-of-state gets waived if he makes a high enough ACT.
Yeah. Auburn at 10 and 11 would have to really get to work.
They're not getting there.
Yeah, doesn't feel good.
No.
And I haven't seen an update on Tanner Burns. I don't know what's going on with him, but
it's interesting. There's a lot on the line, Ole Miss and LSU this weekend potentially. Hate to overemphasize one weekend, but
yeah, Ole Miss's
RPIs feels big.
Ole Miss's RPIs remaining are 10, 9, and 20. In the SEC.
They've got a shot to get into the top 16.
Oh, yeah. I think 16. I think out of that vacuum the other day was a little misleading because you're beating other people are beating you, and you can kind of move up. Arkansas State, by the way, this is kind of key to me, is they've got to play them. We'll see what happens. Southern Miss's RPI is 43. That's a top 50 game. That's not killing you on the road at all. That's not doing much to you. And Arkansas State, to their credit, while it's not great, 114. That's it. Just 114. So you're okay kind of there, too. Don't lose the game because at some point numbers do matter from an overall win standpoint. You've already lost 7 of them. But 19-7, it's okay. You're all right. You're not a national seed all right, but you're host all right.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah, you'd have to just
Unless they went like 8-1.
Yeah, have to go batty at that point. Right. And go win Hoover again and keep everybody there on Sunday. But
I won't be there.
not hanging out in Hoover this year.
I did my duty.
You have a better record there than I do.
I have a really good record in Hoover.
Yeah, you've seen multiple championship games. You've.
I could probably go Saturday and Sunday if you needed me to go.
Yeah, you have a graduation coming up.
Yeah,
where's it at?
Tad Smith.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, I'm committed.
Is that why they're keeping the aliens from coming back and getting their ship?
I think so. Oxford High School's leasing the spaceship. So I'm in Oxford through Friday night. If you needed me to go Saturday, I could go.
We're going to enjoy our party today. We'll tell you all about that coming up on Tuesday's show. Again, we're taking this on Sunday morning, so you're not anything that happens later today, it won't be there on Monday because we are not taping a podcast later in the afternoon, probably no matter what happens. So,
here's the other story that we didn't touch on.
Okay.
Chad Kelly.
Yep. Yeah, fill me in on this a little bit.
Yeah, I'm filling myself in a little bit too. There's not a lot here yet. It's still kind of new. The Athletic is reporting that Chad Kelly, the former Ole Miss quarterback who got into some issues in Denver last season, has been having some conversations. His representation has been having some conversations with the Indianapolis Colts. The word that is used is that it has been percolating that Kelly will sign with the Colts. Because he pled that.
Yeah.
So he's got some.
He appears to be okay from that standpoint.
He's got some community service and stuff, but there's not going to be a conviction hanging over him, if you will. So something to watch. Chad's got,
He's got massive talent. He's just got to take care of it. I mean,
and obviously Andrew
and
Luck's the quarterback there. Jacoby Brissett is locked in as the number 2, but Chad's a guy that he could learn a lot from a guy like Andrew Luck.
Is it painful to be doing the podcast under a Cubs Jake Arrieta jersey?
No, because that patch,
you get memories.
The patch on the side, it says champions.
It does. It says World Series champions,
and I remember it.
As opposed to the Andrew Miller jersey that is just to the right.
It's a reminder, isn't it?
It just says World Series.
World Series.
It does not say champions under it.
That's a participant.
It would really suck if this one just had World Series and this one had champions.
I wouldn't
already
be able to sit here.
That would just be lauding over you right now.
Yeah.
Like it would be a weird deal because you got a Lester over here too.
Which is good. Justin Grimm, World Series champions.
Oh, I go. His patch looks different.
Yeah, they just added them.
Yeah, look, he's got the Miller patch, but it says champions under it.
Yep. It's a big word.
Where's Grimm now?
Kansas City, I think.
Sure.
There's Aaron Barrett, one of the best stories in Major League Baseball.
It is. So,
Speaking of perseverance, he could have easily just said, I'm done.
Yeah. 2 massive injuries there. Appreciate Andy as always. Appreciate Blue Delta for having us in this morning for the drinks, for the party, for all the different stuff. And we'll be back on Tuesday to tell you how it went. So appreciate you listening. We'll talk to you then.